Well, back to the ocean. Maybe we can find a fish there. Quite some logs on this beach, that's for sure. Don't believe it, but we've finally hooked a decent fish here. It's halibut. He's not hooked that well. Try and get him in the boat. Him. I need a gaff for them. I don't have one. Well, we've got a small cod or cable fish or pollock, not 100% sure, but good size for me for dinner. So I'm going to keep that guy. Actually, no, I'm going to let him go. Try for halibut. Not that deep just here. It's only about 7 meters into a 12 meter deep hole. So 35 to 40 feet max. And I've hooked that pollock, that little pollock, and now this is the third halibut. Pretty big one, this guy. Gotta get it in the boat. It's gonna be my dinner. I was hooked even worse. Another one gone. Let's try again. Okay, on to another one. Must be a lot down there. This guy feels pretty solid too. Problem is they're too big. I mean, they're not massive halibut, but they're too big for me to easily get in the boat without a gaff, and they're a bit too big really. Like I'll eat them for 2 nights if I can get one to keep the hook held. But I'd really prefer a slightly smaller one. You know, that's a big fish. There we go. A solid halibut. I'll be eating this and using it for crab bait for a long time. There we go. Wow, who said you need bait to catch halibut? If the numbers are good, like they are in that little hole, you definitely don't need bait. I just hooked, what, in the space of 30 minutes? Less. I hooked about 5. Lost 4. Yeah, no bait, not once. You need bait when the numbers are no good. I'm sorry. If the numbers are good, you probably don't need bait. He's dead, but nerves. Anyway, back to the boat. Well, the wind is lighter today, much lighter actually, but it's kind of increasing a little bit into the day, but from the sort of east-southeast, or southeast pretty much. But considering how shallow those halibut were yesterday, I've got a bit of a idea to go out and try drifting with the fly rod, and if I hook one of them, I'm going to run into a little beach because they weren't that far off the beach, and then I'll fight the fish from the beach. Simply because with a fly rod and a halibut that big, it's just impossible to get them into the boat with such a long and weak rod. So yeah, I don't know, see how I go. That's the plan for the next few hours though. So with a bit of luck we'll hook into one. Okay, just dropped the crab and prawn trap out in a 30-meter gutter. Leave them until probably later this afternoon. Got a 10 weight rod, big heavily weighted fly with lots of marabou and stuff like that in it. Hopefully it's going to get down deep enough. Slow drift towards 4 meters where I was hooking them yesterday. Probably in about 8 to 10 at the moment. Bring it on. If I hook one, which will hopefully happen closer to the beach where it gets a little bit shallower, then I'm just going to run to the beach. Not even going to worry about the anchor because the wind's blowing on shore. Jump out and fight it from the beach. There's a bit of kelp and stuff in between, so who knows. I might get cleaned up on that, but yeah, there's no way I can get one of these meter-long halibut in the boat with an 8-foot fly rod by myself. It's just not, you just can't get leverage on the fly rod. It's too difficult. Unless you had a really long gaff maybe, but I want to let them go. So yeah, that's the plan. Get to the beach, fight it onto the beach and release it there. Anyway, I got to hook one first, see how we go. Well, just about at the beach and not a touch. Did get stuck in the kelp a second ago in some of the shallower water, but apart from that, either I'm not getting deep enough, it's not the right time of day, there's no fish out there. I could go out and do it with a jig and see if I hook something, but I'd rather wait until later. Just let them rest a bit, because I did hook 4 or 5 yesterday. I'll come back this evening, I'll bring a little bit of split shot, just to get the fly down even deeper. Hope that the wind's a little less strong, so I'm not drifting as fast. Felt a little touch then. Little fish though, I think. And yeah, give it a go later. Good in theory though, I think. This is how they fish the locks in Scotland, I think. I don't know for sure, but they basically just drift, dragging the fly. So in a way, it's basically trolling in my book. But, you know, it's still a fly rod. Why not? Makes you feel like the only person on the planet. It's just amazing. It's me and the animals. So good. Definite little lie up spot for some animals here. Bones from their prey. Good potential for finding fossils too. Look at this. Amazing part of the world. Just beautiful. Nice to get out of the wind. I might sit here for a while. Yeah. Magic spot. Tide's still dropping though, better get back and get the dinghy. I'm just having a few casts. this slightly calmer bay here. It's about 2, 3, 4 meters deep in places. Very quiet. No little rockfish, no lingcod, no black rockfish, no halibut that I can see. Crazy to think that just out there 50 meters last night, 50 meters out in about 5 meters of water, I was hooking meter long halibut. It's incredible. Might just have been that it was late at night. You know, it was around 9:30, 10 o'clock. Maybe they were moving up into the shallows at that time, because where I dropped the crab and prawn trap, there's a good 30 meter gutter that runs up towards this flatter part, which is something that halibut like. They like to have deep water nearby, a shallow hunting ground. So I'm told. Makes sense though. There's not much up here in the shallows though, that's for sure. Well, there might not be any fish around, but it's a pretty spectacular backdrop. You can hear rocks falling off every now and then. No fish, just weed. It's incredible, I can't believe it. That whole stretch just looked like perfect habitat, but not a touch, nothing. Where are the smaller rockfish? I just don't understand it. Or even the small wrasse, you know, the small ling. I don't know. Back to the boat for lunch for me. Come ashore for a bit of a walk before I go out and try to chase these halibut on the fly rod again. But I've just come across a pretty big ribcage bone of a who knows what whale. Pretty heavy. Doesn't look like a big whale, if I'm guessing that's a rib cage. Pretty small actually. Anyway, interesting. Just about to pull up the crab trap. I thought I'd drop the jig down and see if there's anything around, and 30 meter sort of shallow bit at the bottom of the trench and nothing. It's interesting, like I was dropping the jig, drifting at quite a pace yesterday, and I've often wondered if it was going to be a suitable technique, like you drop it and then the wind will blow you away and the jig stretches out behind you, and as soon as it comes up off the bottom, I'll jig it a few times, 3, 4, half a dozen times, then free spool it, drop it back down, do it again, half a dozen jigs as it comes up off the bottom. So it's basically leapfrogging along the bottom. I thought it would be a good technique, but I've never really had much success with it until yesterday. And it might just be the fact that I haven't been where the fish are, and I was lucky to get a good number of fish in the area yesterday that have probably, it's a pretty shallow area, and I wouldn't think any long line boat, any wreck guys, I just don't think people would bother fishing it. It was only about 7 meters deep, even 4 to 5 meters in some places. So there was a lot of fish there, and they've probably never really seen jigs that much, particularly considering I'm a long way from any town here, you know, at least 100 plus nautical miles. So it was good to see that the technique worked. Out here though, straight down at 30 on anchor with the crab trap and nothing. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'll try the fly first do a couple of drifts with the fly, and if that doesn't work, I'll try the jig. It'll be interesting to see if the jig does work. It's a glow in the dark sort of jig, so maybe just that simple attraction is enough to draw the fish in and aggravate them into striking. We'll see. Unbelievable. Whew. Nothing. That's amazing. That thing's been down there pretty much all day and there's nothing in it. Not even a reasonable sized fish has gone in there to look for a feed. Incredible. Pretty succulent sort of bait, poorly filleted halibut. Yeah, oh well. Interesting. Well, I dug the split shot out, but it didn't make it into the dinghy. Damn it. So gonna have to try it without, I guess. There's a little less wind right now, so the drift is a little bit slower, but the tide, no, the tide's probably similar to this morning. Anyway, such is life. I'll have to find another halibut hotspot and get some split shot, or fish a heavier line. I guess this is just a sink tip floating sink tip line. It's just not getting deep enough, I don't think, in the 5-7 meters where I was hooking the fish last night. But the halibut should come up a little bit. Anyway, we'll see what happens. If not, I'll do a couple of drifts and then I'll try the jig again. See if they're still here and want to play today. Well, I've done this second drift with my 8-foot rod up to the reel submerged to give it an extra 2 meters at least. So the fly's definitely been in the zone for this drift at times, particularly now because it's probably in about 4 to 5 meters back there, but no touches. I'm wondering if the glow in the dark paint job on the jig, that would definitely draw the halibut in a little bit better, I think. And next year I'm gonna stock up on some kind of glow in the dark synthetic fly tying material just for this, because I think that would definitely give you a bit of an upper hand. But that's it, unfortunately. There's 2 drifts with no interest shown whatsoever in my black fly. Yeah, I'm going to take it back up and give it one run with the jig and see how we go. It'll be interesting to see if they're here today for the jig. Okay, this is it. The last drift, pulling out tomorrow, so this is the last go. Let's see if they want to play with the jig still. Just a white jig, glow in the dark, 10 meters of water, down to about 4 or 5. Let's see how we go. Basically, I've got enough fish for tonight, and if I hook one, I'm going to try to fight it up to the boat and hope it throws the hook, basically. See, that's on the bottom already. Crazy. Not drifting as fast today, so it'll be doing less leapfrogs. Comes up off the bottom. Drop it again. Comes up off the because I don't think the treble hooks them up as well. Two single hooks facing each other. That's the trick, I reckon. Okay, I've got something here, but not overly big. Yeah, another one of these guys. Pollock or a codon, I'm not 100% sure what they are. I did check up that flounder, 100%, it's called the starry flounder. It's the star-shaped scales, I presume. Well, not a big fish again, and not a halibut, but this guy's pretty interesting. Some kind of gudgeon, I think. Pretty interesting fish though, prehistoric looking. Look at that, just looks ancient. Amazing. Back he goes. That was a good one. Okay, halibut on for sure. Big head shakes. I tell you what, on a fly it would be very interesting. So that was definitely a halibut that I just lost a second ago, I'm pretty sure. It just seems that the bigger fish in this patch, that's all they are. I might get this up and be proven wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is a halibut as well. Yeah, it is. Not as big as the ones I was catching yesterday, but still pretty solid. Away he goes. How's all that regurgitated food there? He just wasted his afternoon, but learned a good lesson. Well, that's it for me, guys. I've finally caught a couple of halibut. I'm pretty excited about that. It's I now know for sure I'm not wasting my time fishing a jig, even if I don't use bait. You know, if they're there, they're gonna take it. So I'm pretty happy about that. It's been 4 or 5 years and it hasn't happened. So I've caught one on a jig off Baranoff about 3 years ago on a jig. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the clip, and I'll get another one out to you as soon as possible. Get around that headland and explore a whole new stretch of coastline that's got a number of little creeks and a lot of little nooks and crannies to explore, and hopefully find a few more fish, and hopefully a halibut like that on the fly rod. Be very happy. So take care, I'll see you with the next one.